Your number one hype gal here, and welcome to the weekly warm-up, your weekly dose to feel a little more confident and a lot more human. I'm Jess McDowell, and each week I'll share life updates, mindset shifts, product faves, the little things that help me stay grounded, energized, and moving and grooving. Whether you're heading out for a jog, sipping your morning coffee, or just need a midweek pick-me-up, this is your warm-up for living a real balanced life. So take a breath, shake it out, and let's dive in. Welcome back to the weekly warm-up podcast. I missed y'all. I took a week off last week because I had so much going on and I had back-to-back races and then another race a week later. And I felt like there was just a lot on my plate and I needed to eliminate a few things. Not that the pod is not important, because it is, but it takes about 8 to 12 hours to film and produce and edit and upload and create clips and share on social media and blah, blah, blah. I felt like y'all would forgive me if I took a week off. And ironically, this is going to be a topic that we discuss today. So maybe we should just dive in. Let's get right into it. We're talking about something that 99.9% of runners experience, and that is burnout. Burnout is not fatigue, having a bad day, feeling tired, our menstrual cycle, you get it. Burnout is its whole entity and its whole beast on its own. It kind of starts by you actually thriving. Go figure. So think about it like if you're in your training block or you've been training and you're feeling motivated and you're feeling consistent and you're hitting your miles, you're hitting your goals. Maybe you're starting to see progress and then all of a sudden something shifts. Yes, of course, because when we have peaks, there must be valleys. Essentially, your runs, you start feeling heavier, your energy drops, your motivation dips. And for me personally, lo and behold, out of nowhere, when you're just at your high, your runner's high, all of a sudden you start to feel heavy, your energy is starting to dip. Your motivation dips, your workouts used to feel manageable and your runs used to feel manageable, but suddenly they're feeling hard. And most women, myself included, and as of recent, we think the problem is discipline. We are wired that we need to do better. We are not disciplined enough. We aren't training the right way. We need to adjust our training load, etc. But really, we're not underworking, go figure, right? We're not underworking, we're overloaded. And I want that to be the word of, hi, Welker. I want that to be, okay, thank you, sir. I want that to be the word of the week, the word of the month, and that is overload. And a lot of us, that has to do with stress, and it's accumulating stress in the body. And the reason why I want overload to be the word of the week, the word of the month, is because we're not wanting to look at it negatively. We're wanting to look at it like, how can I properly adjust my lifestyle, properly adjust my schedule, avoid overload, to avoid burnout. So if we're looking at the word overload, then we're going to be more hyper aware of what we're doing to prevent it. Typically, when we talk about training, we're talking about mileage, pace, strength training, agility, mobility, and the body doesn't separate that. Our body doesn't know that we hit a long run or that we had a serious strenuous resistance training or that we didn't sleep well or we're having stressful work days, relationship stress, not eating enough. It doesn't register. We don't just wake up and our body's like, oh, honey, you had a bad rest or you had a bad sleep. And ironically, I think it's funny because the fact that we have technology and a lot of wearable technology, we assume that the stats we get, our body knows. They don't. It doesn't. Our body doesn't know our stats. We know our stats and it's real and it's truthful and it's factual, but our body isn't aware of that. It's just showing you, the technology is showing you what your body is doing. You want to put that into perspective. So it all registers just under stress on the nervous system. It's not registering a specific reason as to why. Now, data and statistics will, but your body isn't. And just like our energy system and just like fueling our body, which I've talked about, the stress load has already been at a high before training even starts. Just like when I talk about how if you're not properly fueling, and that's, not even during races, but in your life in general. And then, before race and on race day, if you start to have that energy depletion, you can't just build it right back up, And that's the same thing with stress, is that typically what happens is that stress load, it's already there. It's peaking, it's getting there. It's just, when is it actually going to hit burnout? So you're separating the fact of multiple different, think of it like, is it a Venn diagram? Am I that smart? Okay. I think it is like a Venn diagram. So think of it like a Venn diagram. And if it's not a Venn diagram, then think of it like a circle, and you have your different sections of everything. So you have your family and your responsibilities, your relationships, your mental load, your work, your training, and whatever else is in there. So it's all separate, right? And sometimes what happens is the body hits a threshold where recovery simply cannot keep up. Just again, like our energy systems, our energy simply can't keep up. Our bodies simply can't keep up to recovery. And I recently felt that, and it is real. And I'm sure 99.9% of y'all have felt that. And then when recovery falls behind, especially with training, because we're putting so much stress and a workload on our body with endurance training, especially, running and all, burnout starts creeping in, and it's real. And if you think about the training load you put on your body, and I'm just speaking for myself as an endurance athlete, as a runner, but think about it also, hybrid athletes, or when you're cross training, that's same thing technically, or you're doing a lot of resistance training, or you just have your general workout splits that you do every week. That is a lot of stress on the body. And when recovery falls behind, even when you think that you are doing the highest level of recovery, I mean, speaking for me, I mean, the things I do for my body, when burnout starts to creep in, it game over. There's no going back. You are going to have to do a full body reset. I've talked about cortisol before, and unfortunately, it really, really affects our bodies as a woman. And it affects our bodies hormonally, it affects our bodies emotionally, it affects our bodies physically. And there's different types of reasons and why cortisol will spike and how a woman will show it. I tend to get more of like a round face when I have high cortisol. It's almost as if my body is protecting me. It's definitely swollen, which obviously happens, with like retention. And some people get it in their gut, where that's where they're not, having regular bowels, or they're starting to see it more in their visceral fat area. And that's that lower abdominal area for women, which also has to do with hormones. So cortisol kind of hits in many different ways. And that's why it's called the stress hormone. Of course, the thing that really just gets our gears going is also essential when we are wanting to regulate our energy and our performance. Go figure, right? We can't have it all. Women, we really try, we do our best, we're badasses, but it just seems like we have to take the good with the bad constantly. And it is what it is. Like I said, when your cortisol stays elevated for long periods of time due to chronic stress, you're sleep deprived, you're not fueling properly, it's going to interfere with your recovery. And then this is where endurance athletes, where runners, hybrid athletes start to see that persistent fatigue, and you'll start to see increased soreness and in different areas than you're not normally used to. Your sleep just becomes a mess. And also, let me say with the sleep, because this is one thing that sometimes we think, just because you sleep through the night doesn't mean that that was quality sleep. I'm not talking about what time you go to bed and what time you wake up. I believe that everybody's biological clock is different and it works for your own body. But I'm talking about you sleeping for 8 hours doesn't mean you had quality sleep. Obviously, having enough sleep per night is super beneficial, because if you have 2 nights of bad sleep, you're going to be feeling that a week later. It's not the next day. You'll feel groggy or something maybe. But what happens again is it's just that accumulation. And eventually you're just going to hit a wall and you're going to have to reset again. It's crazy how our bodies are always thinking a week to 2 weeks in advance. I always say that to everybody, especially when I am mentoring women with endurance and running. I always talk about how whatever you're doing right now is not for tomorrow. It's for yourself in 2 weeks. Wait, Okay, I'm sorry. That was really philosophical, but it's true. You know what I mean? And that includes eating, that includes everything. But going back to the topic, and then your plateau with performance, and it's absolute worst because you drive yourself crazy with it because you just think you're doing everything wrong. And then if you have previous injuries or you are injury prone, you start to see reoccurring injuries or even areas that maybe say for instance, you've had a tight IT band in the past, or you've had something to do with a sciatica or a pinched nerve, and that's been long gone. You'll start to kind of see those random injuries, or I call them like ticks, come back. And that's a really big sign. And it's not because you're weak, and it's not because your body can't handle the strain that you're putting on it, because trust me, your body can. And as you progress and get better and work on these things, you are able to handle and withstand heavier loads on your body. It just takes time and it takes effort. And it really is a full blown lifestyle. And your recovery system, when it's overloaded, you have to reset it. You just have to reset it. There's no other way to go about it. One thing I notice, there's two things I really notice, but one thing I notice when I'm hitting burnout is my heart rate spikes immediately when I start running, even if I'm running at a slow pace and it feels like you just can't keep it down or you can't lower it. And the only way you can is literally physically stopping and then restarting, and it basically happens again. And that's where I start to realize, there's a problem, because somebody that's been in the game for a hot minute, I know how to regulate my heart rate, and I know when my heart rate would peak or would spike versus when it wouldn't, when I'm doing my training and when I'm on my splits. So to know that if my heart rate is spiking and peaking within that first mile, we've got a problem. And then the other one for me, I notice, is just those little random ticks in the body in areas that I normally wouldn't have if I'm healthy, or not healthy, but if I'm not stressed and going towards burnout. So it would be like, for instance, my left hamstring has been giving me some problems lately, and it's just been annoying. That's what it is. It's just annoying. It's a tick. You usually don't have it. Your body's usually in great condition and structure. And that's how I know, okay, yeah, I'm getting there. Actually, I lied. There's three. So there's those two. And then my energy. For instance, I feel as if I cannot keep up with staying full, that I'm consistently just hungry or not being able to sustain my energy when it comes to fueling with running. And those are my top three. Everyone's different. I just feel like sharing, sharing's caring. And preventing burnout isn't about training less and isn't about you having to restructure your training program or your current training program, because obviously you want to be on a progressive training program, or you are progressively training. That's how you get better. But it's more about training smarter, not harder. And I always talk about that because recovery is not implemented into most training load. And you might think that you're doing that by stretching or going to a yoga class or going to a wellness studio and getting in the sauna, or I have compression boots. You can go to some of the wellness clubs and studios and put some compression boots on. It's doing the bare minimum, basically. There's difference between your half-ass recovery and your real intentional recovery. So there's recovery where in your week, you usually have a rest day or a recovery day, whether it's active recovery or total complete recovery, and you have your recovery routine that you put in. And that's your basics, like stretching, yoga, walking, taking a full rest day. Obviously, your fueling and your supplements. Did I say stretching? Yeah. Let's just call it your wellness and high performance technology that you can use, as far as your massage guns, your boots, your foam rollers and creams, etc. You know what I mean? We're talking about your biohacking. But then there's also where every couple weeks you need to have a full reset. So there's a difference. You have your weekly recovery and then your full reset. And I think that that's where you can kind of differentiate the two, is that recovery should be standard all the time. But then there should also be a standard of about a reset. If that means figuring out ways to get in more sleep, I'm not going to tell y'all how to do that because everyone's schedule is different. But I know for myself, it's getting in a few extra naps during the week because you're able to rest and that nap is giving your body recovery. Even if it's 20 or 30 minutes, it's the point of you resting your mind, resting your body. You would be surprised how much that does for you. Or going to bed a little bit earlier, or if you're unable to, maybe trying to sleep in a little earlier, whatever it may be, but getting in some extra sleep. And then fueling. I understand that a lot of the times, especially for women, there's a stigma with eating your carbs and how much protein and where do I incorporate my fats and then, your veggies and your antioxidants. Your body's a temple. I said this on an episode a couple weeks ago, and then I've talked about it on my social platforms. High achieving women and high performing women. And when we are high performing endurance women, sometimes we think that our performance has to be built on stacking that stress and stacking those training loads and stacking everything on top of each other. That's where, like I said, we need to kind of pick apart what really matters and what doesn't, rewire our brain to understand what is working for us when it comes to our training and when it comes to our lifestyle and our fueling. That's it right there. The takeaway would be, how can you sit down with yourself and take time to split up your training, your recovery, your fueling, and your life to make it work for you, and the little tweaks that you can make in each section that will benefit you in the long run. I mean, you can always come to me and we can mentor and we can chit chat and we can make sure that you're moving and grooving in all areas. But yeah, those are the pillars right there. A topic I love to discuss and that I frequently talk about to mentor, part of the women, a part of the weekly warm up club, my Fabletics Run club, on social media, and the community events that I am in, everywhere. And that's talking about what actually makes a strong endurance runner or a strong runner in general, endurance running, etc. And when most people think about endurance, they immediately think that you have to be an athlete or that you have to be a high level tier. And that's not true. First of all, endurance and running is similar. Endurance just means that you most likely are going longer. Endurance means longer periods of time. So obviously running can be both short and long, but they think about endurance as mileage, right? Right there. So more miles is you're more fit or you're better or you're stronger or you have better endurance. And that's not really the reality. A strong endurance athlete, quotes, are built far more than just from running volume. It is an accumulation of lifestyle. Just like how in fitness, there's 5 pillars. There's endurance, there's resistance, there's mobility, balance, and agility. Well, endurance performance has, and write these down because they're important, and it's physiology, it's fueling, it's recovery, it's mental resilience, and it is fuel consistency and long-term consistency. Aerobic efficiency, I think, is one of the main areas that we could work better on and is one of the most important pillars of a strong endurance runner. Absolutely. Your aerobic efficiency is everything. And sometimes that is also called your VO2 max or cardiovascular health, but your aerobic efficiency is key. And this is the ability to produce energy using oxygen at lower intensities. And when I say that, it kind of goes back to how I was talking about in the last topic of my heart rate when I know I'm burning out. It's being able to withstand a longer distance or withstand an endurance or aerobic activity without spiking your heart rate and with managing your heart rate. Basically, you're managing your heart rate, you're managing that oxygen, and you're not peaking. I'm aware that when I start to burn out, my heart rate starts to spike. As somebody that has aerobic efficiency or is advanced with my VO2 max, I'm very aware of where I'm at when it comes to my heart rate levels when I am, in an endurance running position. But being able to maintain a heart rate and being able to do an aerobic exercise or sport and not being at a place where your heart rate spikes to the point where you're not able to withstand that endurance. That's the easiest way I can explain it. The more efficient your aerobic system becomes, then the less energy you're burning and your body needs to sustain your distance or to sustain your pace. And once you get that down, my gosh, your life becomes so much easier. Like a switch hits or flips, and you're just in this flow state. It is the best feeling in the world, and it is possible for everybody. It is just how you train and making sure that you're getting your aerobic base down and understanding it. This is why training for longer distances, whether it's a half marathon or a marathon, or doing any type of aerobic base sport or exercise, but obviously speaking, because we're talking about runners, how it allows us to maintain a faster speed with less fatigue. And aerobic efficiency takes time. It's the number one thing that takes time. It's the longest, it's the most frustrating. And also, how can I explain it? It's like an itch you can't get, because you know you need to do it. And sometimes it means not going and, like I always say, like blowing your wad or going full speed all the time. Sometimes it's you needing to take a step back and go a little bit slower and, working on either your speed work, or if you're going on longer runs, taking that time to not focus on having to be the fastest. And so building up your aerobic base and your aerobic efficiency is an itch that you can't scratch. And it will not be done in one training session, nor will it be done in 7 training sessions, and I'm talking, this is like months and years. It doesn't just happen. You're going to need at least 6 weeks to start seeing a difference, 4 weeks if you're really putting the time and effort in and you have a really good training load. And obviously you're focusing on your fuel and your recovery in your life. Consistency is key. I mean it. When it comes to your aerobic base, improving your output has to do with consistency. You can't just do 1 run a week, 2 runs a week. It's about being consistent, showing up week after week, and then having that progressive overload with training and your threshold and building up your mitochondria. Because once you have better oxygen delivery, it's going to improve your running economy. It's going to help your body adapt. And over time, that's when you're going to start to see those differences and the progress, and also less plateauing, a lot less plateauing. You're going to see a whole change in your body. And I kind of feel like I'm at that point right now. I might be at a little bit of a plateau, I will admit. And it's hard for me to admit, but I might be there. And I know I've already started to adjust a few things, and we'll see what happens. But everyone hits this. Doesn't matter what level or what aerobic base you're at. Everyone hits a time where you're thinking, okay, how can I improve my VO2 max? How can I improve my aerobic efficiency? How can I get better? But by not burning ourselves out, right? Exactly. Nutrition is very important. And again, I want to go back to, as women, we get very, very intimidated with how we have to fuel as endurance athletes. But also too, there is a stigma around the way you have to fuel. And if you are going to gain weight or look a certain way, or your body is your reaction, I guess you want to call it that. And the thing about it is yes, we have to have a lot of carbohydrates, but if you are actually training at the level that you quote unquote are saying you are for the carbs that you're intaking, then it should all even out. That's the same thing about your protein. You need to be making sure that you're getting enough protein. And also too, if you need to supplement with, protein shakes, I swear by creatine, and obviously having magnesium and staying hydrated with your electrolytes. But, your carbohydrates, that's your glycogen storage. And I have talked about this as well in podcast episodes. And I've mentioned it, on my socials. And your glycogen storage is key, especially when you're running longer periods of time. And if you are not consistently fueling your body with carbohydrates and protein, then you're going to burn out and you're not going to be able to get better, and your body won't be able to catch up. Now, with that, obviously has to do, and we'll go into, obviously strength training and things like that. But you can't look at somebody else's body and then put that into your body, if that makes sense. Obviously it should. Sleep, protein, carbs. we'll go into hydration later. But if you are not intaking those two and getting the other, you're never going to get better. Sayonara, just an FYI. And stop being afraid of carbs. Please, for the love of God, stop being afraid of carbs. And there are so many different carbs that you can intake. If you don't want to eat bread, or if you don't want to eat pasta, or if you don't want to eat, the carbs that turn into sugar right away in the body, glucose, and that, our bodies, quote unquote, can't digest, there are other ways that you can get carbs in, and you'll be fine. So I'll talk about this before I go into mental resilience. And this isn't part of like the 5 pillars that we talked about here, but because women, obviously, with eating carbs and having to eat more in general, regardless if it's just carbs, protein as well, no, you're not going to bulk up. You are only going to bulk up if you are eating more than what your energy is depleting, basically. So if you are eating a lot and you are only, and I don't want to start talking about calories and macros and, becoming in a deficit, because that's not the point right now. The point is if you have the training load to where eating the load that you are consuming, then again, it should even out. If you are including resistance training into your endurance, then one, you're going to get stronger. Yes, everyone should be doing strength training. I don't care who you are. If you want to get better at running and you're not strength training, AKA resistance training, sayonara. But if you are resistance training and you're putting in the work with that endurance, then if anything, you should start seeing muscle mass and you should start seeing your body really tone out, really lean out, because obviously aerobic, especially running, takes away muscle mass, and strength training builds up the muscle mass. And that's what you want. If you're afraid or if you're noticing that you're getting pudgier, if you want to call it, then that means most likely you're not putting in enough resistance training, AKA strength training. If you're running a lot and you're feeling pudgy, that's why. 100%. Also to how you're feeling your body. Are you drinking? What else are you eating? I mean, just because you need to intake carbs doesn't mean you need to be eating a cake, you know what I mean, every day. So yeah, resistance training with your endurance training, you're not only going to get better as an athlete or an endurance athlete, but also that is how you're going to maintain the physique that you want. And I always talk about carbohydrates is what you want when you're planning on your endurance, and then your protein is afterwards, and especially when you're doing strength training and resistance. So now the last one, which was our mental resilience. This is part of the 5 pillars that we were talking about. Running is a mental sport. It is, I'm going to say 90% mental, 10% physical, and people are going to come for me, but truly, it really is all mental. It takes a certain person to get up and simply just go for a run, and then to keep running for 10 minutes, and then to keep running for a couple miles, to then half marathon to marathon. It takes a specific person to do that. And so it teaches you mental resilience. It teaches you patience, that progress can be slow, but when you start to notice that slow progress, it is some of the most mentally and physically rewarding moments that you can have, because running brings in both mental and physical. For me personally, running's changed my life. When I first started, running, in 2008, which is how long ago? And I felt like this was a part of me because, growing up, I was a soccer player and I was a striker. So it was basically instilled in me. And running has gotten me through my highest highs and my lowest lows. And sometimes running has also just been a way for me to go and escape. It wasn't always about training and performing. It wasn't always about the mental escape. It sometimes is where I can become the most creative, or where I need to go and just shut off, or where I need to go and run because I don't know how I'm going to make it through a day. So running for me has had so many different chapters, and that's why I genuinely love it. And it is my life, and why I do what I do, and why I talk about it, and why I have really enjoyed seeing where running has evolved over the years. I mean, when I was running, it wasn't like today. You didn't have a run club on every block. You didn't have all this high tech gear. You didn't have all these, and obviously that comes with, the times of technology and things, but in general, I mean, you didn't hear people, if you were running, people would be like, you're a nutbag. Like, I can't believe you run, that's crazy. Or if you are running, you're just doing it for yourself and there's no real run clubs. If there were a few here and there, but you almost feel like that was like what your parents would go to or something, And I would run races, but it wasn't talked about as much, or it wasn't as much of an accolade or I don't want to say a success because that's not true, but people weren't looking at you and considering you like, wow, that's so amazing. They were just like, that's crazy. Or, you just kind of did your own thing. And so it's just interesting to see how much it has grown, but also, again, yes, the clothing, the activewear, the technology, the gear, the accessibility, the education, the just love for the sport in general. Now there's all these different types of fitness events for it. And now there's famous people starting run clubs. It's truly insane. And I love it. And I couldn't get any better. But going off topic, that's the mental resilience right there. And it's keeping up with it and continuing to do it and not giving up and not letting it get the best of you. And I have taken breaks from running. I've taken a couple months off from running before. And it wasn't something where I thought about doing it, and it wasn't something where I didn't think about doing it, but it kind of just happened. And then it almost kind of gives you this feeling of you're not afraid to get back out running, but you're almost just in this indifference period. And then you get back out there for that run and it clicks and you crave it. So it really is psychological. If anyone could do one thing for me, it would be on your hardest days of running and on the days where you feel like you don't know if you can do it anymore, to stop and remind yourself of that first run. Remind yourself of that day that when you decided to start running and that feeling you had, and also notice what has changed in your life for the better since you started, whether it's surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded, getting rid of people that are no longer, serving you, lifestyle changes as far as maybe eating too much, drinking, going out late nights. Is it your physique? Is it your physiology? Are you noticing that you're healthier, that you have gotten into the shape that you've always dreamt of? What is it that really, really, really attaches you to running? And think about that when the days get hard, because trust me, it does. And it is just as much physical as it is mental. And if you can overcome the mental part of it, there's no going back. You'll crush it. You're going to be a badass no matter what. Just remember that mental resilience, it is a mental sport, and it will mess with you, and it will mess with you hard, but you just got to keep moving and grooving. You just got to keep doing it. I always say you're strong, you're capable, you're healthy, you're worthy. And get out there and move and groove. You know what time it is. I have really been digging, just pulling from Instagram or from the internet, topics that I found that I thought were interesting or that we could all relate to. And we're going to talk about creatine, because I'm a creatine stan. I love creatine. I take it at least twice a day, not more. Usually it's before a workout and then after a workout. Yeah, that's usually when I'll do it. But I read that women taking creatine saw their depression scores drop up to 63%. That's pretty wild. So what research has showed? The researchers conducted an 8-week open label trial with 14 women with major depressive disorder, giving them 5 grams of creatine daily while measuring depression severity and brain energy levels. Average depression scores dropped from 16.9 at baseline to as low as 6.28 by week 7, representing a maximum reduction of 62.6% in system severity. Improvements were statistically really static statistically okay okay what's going on with me right now? So the stats improved as early as 2 weeks. After 8 weeks, frontal lobe phosphocreatine levels increased from 0.223 to 0.233, indicating a measurable rise in brain energy. So what does this mean? The data suggests that altering brain energy metabolism may directly influence depressive symptom severity in women. The rapid improvements by week 2 indicates that bioenergetic shifts in the brain called precede long-term behavioral changes. The parallel increase in phosphocreatine supports the idea that cellular energy availability plays a role in mood regulation. Well, yeah, absolutely. The findings help explain why depression in some individuals may involve impaired mitochondrial or metabolic function rather than only neurotransmitter imbalance. I will share all this, by the way, like I always do. I'll share it in my stories on my Instagram, the weekly warm up. Let's see. Depression is associated with disruptions in brain energy metabolism, particularly in frontal brain regions involved in motivation and executive functions. Awesome. A buffer that helps maintain stability. Yeah, I'll share the rest of it because I don't want to keep going on. But last but not least, the study suggests that increasing brain phosphocreatine through creatine supplementation is associated with substantial reductions in depressive symptoms in women, reinforcing the emerging view that brain energy metabolism is deeply connected to mood regulation. Period. All right. Listen to that, guys. Well, guys, as in mean girls. Listen to that, girls. Yeah, I'm here for it. And I use Primal Harvest creatine like it's my job. And if you want to use the code is Jess Rose McDowell. Get you some creatine from Primal Harvest with my code. I've saved probably like 5 or more studies about creatine. So yeah, I'm here for it. I also wanted to talk about what science says about healing frequencies. Lately, I have been on a kick where I'll listen to frequencies before I go to bed. Some of them obviously are like manifestation frequencies or sleep frequencies or, any type of, calming frequencies, blah, blah, blah. But I really thought it was interesting because I think it's actually working. And I will leave it on a timer on Spotify to shut off in an hour. And usually I'm out within 10 minutes, not even. But obviously, it's playing while I'm sleeping for, let's say, 50 minutes, 45 minutes after I am out. And I always wonder how those frequencies are helping me in my brain with, depression, anxiety, my happiness when I wake up, how I wake up, how I go about my day. I do start to think how I'm noticing a difference, to be honest with you, and just maybe my production or, not my production, my productivity and motivation, being kind. But anyways, what are binaural beats? Binaural beats? I think I'm saying that right. What are binaural beats? When you hear 2 slightly different tones, one in each ear, your brain creates a third rhythm on its own. Example, left ear 200 hertz, right ear 210 hertz. The brain receives a 10 hertz beat. That 10 hertz isn't played. Your brain generates it. This is why headphones are required. I always think about that too, because sometimes, so the playlist that I listen to, which is called, and I will share it as well on my stories, deep sleep frequencies, 528 hertz, 432 hertz, healing and DNA repair. Yeah, right there, baby. But if you see, there's days and days worth, but there's different sections. So for instance, okay, see, this is a thing because as I'm scrolling, what does it stop on? Binaural beats. See, everything happens for a reason. Like dreamless sleeps, deep sleep, delta waves, healing sleep, meditation to release anxiety. We have insomnia relief, clear your mind, miracle sleep. There's all these DNA repair. So there's all these different frequencies and they all have different purposes behind them. I just put it on shuffle, to be quite frank with you. But I mean, I've even come down here. So what we have, find inner balance, manifest positive energy. Maybe I should find some of these. Attract love. I mean, hey boys, heart frequency, pure positive energy. Okay. Anyways, I will share this. But yeah, I wonder if I need to listen to that. I guess I'll have to figure that out. If I need to listen to my playlist before I go to bed with earbuds, but I don't want to do that because that would hurt. And I don't want them both in my ear. I can have one, but then I'll roll over or something. But let's go back to where I was. Okay. Why the brain responds. Your brain naturally uses rhythms, aka brain waves, to organize thinking, emotion, and attention. Binaural beats don't force the brain. They gently nudge it toward a certain state like music does with mood. Cool. Calm and anxiety reduction, alpha beats. Alpha range 8 to 12 hertz, often used for calm focus, reduced anxiety, relaxed alertness. What the research shows, the meta-analysis found moderate reductions in anxiety, especially when people listen before a stressful task. Real life example, listening to a 10 hertz binaural beat for 15 minutes before a presentation may help you feel calmer and steadier. I love that. Focus and attention. So beta beats. Okay, so there's all different kinds. Okay, so again, I will share this. But what the 2018 meta-analysis on binaural beats concluded, across 22 studies, binaural beats showed a medium overall effect on anxiety, cognition, and pain perception. Effects improved when listening lasted longer, beats were used before tasks, no complex setup was required. Cool. Yeah, I'm all about it. I truly think that I've noticed a difference since I've started to incorporate it into my sleep. How strong are these effects? Effects are real but subtle, comparable to other relaxation techniques. More research is needed for healing neuroplastic benefits. Cool. I think I'm going to do that today. The hard part for me when I'm working is because most of the time I'm editing of some sort, unless I'm answering emails or writing out, podcast scripts and things like that, or what it may be. But so the thing for me is most of the time what I'm doing, I can't listen to anything because I'm either editing or I'm having to talk into something or I'm recording something unless I'm doing admin work, answering emails, writing out my weeks or doing, my training schedules and things like that. I do listen and I like it, but I'm going to listen to binaural beats today with headphones in and see if there's a difference. I think we have come down to the part of the podcast where we talk about products I'm digging this week. Let's do it, baby. First and foremost is this shirt. 9 times out of 10, I do not like running tops that are gifted during or for races. Usually I end up donating them or giving them away, but I love this one. One, because I like the fit of it and that it's a cutoff, because then you can kind of design it the way you want to look sporty in it, or if you did want to run or work out in it. But because the artist is Vic Garcia, who is a local artist here in Miami, who is a really, really talented artist, and I love, and I'm very big fan of his art. And he designed the 305 graphic that also is the medal, which probably I should grab. And he designed the medal and then he designed the strap on it. And I just think it's super sick. So that's one of the products I'm digging this week. Since we're talking about recovery, I wanted to show you the 2 types of magnesium I take. The first, obviously, is Primal Harvest. Again, code Jess Rose McDowell. I take the Primal Harvest Magnesium Support, which has 3-in-1 complex with zinc, and zinc's super important as well. In the daytime, during the day, I quickly pop it. At night, I'll take Natural Vitality, the Calm Mind. So it has the L-theanine in it, which obviously helps with muscle relaxation, but also for sleep and calming anxiety. So these are the 2 that I take. Again, the calm is at night or when I'm really wanting to more chill, whereas the Primal Harvest is where I can take it during the day and I'm fine. This is really cool. And yes, I am going to plug my codes because why not? These are fragrances. Oh my gosh. And they're little flat pouches. I don't know what you want to call them. And it's by Y Dimension. I'm obsessed. I'm a fragrance gal through and through. Like I always say, I have to have a lip balm or lip gloss. I have to have a fragrance. I have to have some sort of face mist, period. And water. Yeah, hydrate. But I really love them. They sent me a pack of 4 and there's different flavors, obviously, or scents. So they have Law of Attraction, they have Abundance, Flow, and Gravitate. I really like it. It's perfect to just kind of pop in your bag, wherever you're going, your purse, your running bag, and it smells really freaking good. Honestly, I'm obsessed. So they did give me a code. Where is it? Jess Rose and then M as in man, C, D as in David. So Jess Rose MCD for 15% off. But it's just such a great idea. I love that it's durable. So you can pop it in your pocket but no, it's durable. So you're not having to worry about anything breaking. I love it. It's genius. And then last but certainly not least, this is a newer brand that started. It's called Pouch, and it is basically a liquid or drinkable IV formula. They have different pouches. So this one's Immunity Plus, where it strengthen, defend, and thrive. So it has Vita Line, magnesium, vitamin C, glutathione, zinc, B complex vitamins, selenium, and vitamin D3. Yum. Raspberry ginger flavor. I think I need this right now. I know that there's like a hydration one I've done. There's a couple. I don't have the names at the top of my head, but each one is very specific and I really like it. And you just suck it back. It's really great. So yeah, Pouch. I think that's good. I think those are the products that I'm digging this week. Now y'all have some recovery items that you can get and use that I just showed, and y'all have a full recovery episode and endurance aerobic efficiency episode that you can just move and groove on, take time for yourself, and then, of course, learn more about the creatine and the healing frequencies or the binaural frequencies. And we are just going to be the best endurance athletes, best women that we could possibly be. And that's all we can ask for. So thanks for joining along this week. And that's that.